on the foundation for the younger generation. Right. On the foundation. On the foundation for the younger generation.
Hello, dear listeners of You Drive on Foundation Radio. I send you a warm greeting this week on this educative program called You Drive. And since the 7th of July, we are out to inform and educate you about the upcoming Civicus War Assembly that will take place in Montreal, Canada from the 3rd to the 7th of September 2012. The theme of the Civicus War Assembly this year is Defining a New Social Contract, Building the Future Together. Dear listeners, our topic this week is Rights and Duties of Citizens in Nation Building. We prepare a good package for you, and we hope you are going to contribute during this program. My name is Bukenina, and with me in the studio is Erin Botiji.
Hello, wonderful listeners. Eric Botiji is my name, and I've not been a while. I'm happy to join you guys, and You Drive is an amazing program. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. And dear listener, we are here in the studio with a guest. That is Rogers Newing.
Well, Nina, thank you very much for that introduction. But I am a graduate from the University of Boya, and my name is Ninying Roja.
I would like to welcome you to this show by introducing our first musical track by Akon and Zion in the title
Love the Way She Moves.
Enjoy.
Zion, baby.
Welcome back, dear listener, into the studio. Our topic this week, as I earlier said, is Rights and Duties of Citizens in Nation Building. We choose this topic as the mean to discuss the 2012 Civicus War Assembly themes that is defining a new social contract, building the future together. We believe that knowing and understanding our rights and responsibilities as citizens can help us in advancing our community, our country, or the world as a whole. So before any discussion, we are going to define rights in one hand and duties in another hand. So, Rogers, what is right for you?
Well, I believe that the concept and the notion of human rights has been approached from a variety of angles, but on a simple basis, rights are those inherent attributes that we all have as human beings. You know, we have these core fundamental values that are ascribed to you because you are a human being. Now, we can further expatiate on that, but the most fundamental rights, as inscribed by various constitutions and various important documents, are the right to life, liberty, and property. Now, as young people, we have the right to life, we have the right to liberty, and we have the right to education. So our constitution works and expatiates on this issue of rights. And if we had to go further, we will understand that they constitute an integral part of our everyday life, and they should be respected. Thank you, Nina.
Okay, how about you, Eric? What do you understand by rights or human rights?
Yes, I understand that the rights are just the basis, the base of human dignity. You know, all elements that constitute human dignity should be coined and called rights, because human rights has its foundation as the dignity. If your dignity is not there, then it means that human rights is a kind of an imposition. But when the human rights now are created based on the dignity, then I think that that's human right.
So thank you so much. Adding to what you people just said, I can say that human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status. So we are all equally entitled to our human rights without discrimination. So for you, what is duties? Because we cannot talk about, I believe that you cannot talk about rights without mentioning duties or responsibilities.
Yeah, well, now, the issue of duties is it's usually confused with rights. But duties are those aspects or those things that are expected of you as an individual. Those things that you are expected to perform or to provide. Now, what is your duty towards the state of Cameroon? What is your duty towards your mother? What is your duty towards your society, your community? So those are those external sacrifices, external contributions or performance that you must make towards something or somebody. I believe that that's a duty that you hold close to yourself and which you believe you must give out there.
Wow, that's a good one. Eric, what is duties?
Yeah, duties are what are expected from people. You know, it's all about social inclusion. So, duties is an element that makes people to be part of the society. You know, if they are taking any decisions that concerns you, it's your duty to advocate for it. It's your duty to contribute to your society, to at your home, and every other thing that says it all about development. So duties is a very important aspect of human life. We should not just be talking about that our human rights have been tampered, but what are your duties? What are we doing? What are you doing? If you want the government to provide roads, hospitals, you have to ask duties. If you are working, to pay your taxes. So our duties are very important and we should perform them.
Wow. So, dear listener, we are trying to define our key elements in our today topic, that is rights and duties of citizens in the nation building. And as the resource person in this studio, Rogers and Eric, my colleague, have just said, duty is a term that conveys a sense of moral commitment or obligation to someone or something. When you know your duty, you know what to do in return. So it's very important for a citizen in a given nation or a given community to know his or her duties in relation with the rights, because you cannot have a right and abandon your duties. Know that duties and rights are interconnected issues that you need to take along as you are moving in the daily life.
Rogers, do you have something to add to that?
Well, I would just like to say that there is a direct relationship between duties and rights, or rights and duties, because if you look at a situation where your rights are not protected or your rights are not promoted, then you find it difficult to you have the zeal or even the enthusiasm to contribute, to perform your duties. It's lacking. If you live in a society where your rights are violated, for example, there's no security of property, there's no security of peace, there's no security of inner mind, that's a pursuit of quiet enjoyment, you find it very difficult to perform your duty of what? Paying your taxes. Of what? Contribute, being loyal to your state. Okay, if you live in a situation where your right to torture, against torture, is violated, and then you find it difficult to pay your taxes in a regime that will torture you. So I believe that if our society takes care of our rights or promotes and protects our rights, then we as young people and we as individuals, we have that motivation now to perform our duties in the society. Yes. So if you look at it, there's a direct relationship. And when one goes off, it automatically affects the other one. Thank you, Nina.
Yes, thank you very much, Rogers. I can see from that point of yours, the interconnection is very clear. Now, dear listeners, we have a very clear understanding of the key elements we are going to discuss in the studio. You can contribute equally on this show by dialing the numbers 70238045. Nina, I would like to ask you this question. What are the basic rights and duties of a Cameroonian that can help in nation building?
Thank you so much for that question, Eric. Know that as a citizen of a country, we should not lay our concern only on the government. The government has to do this, the government has to do that. You should also ask ourselves, what can I do for my nation, for my country? And I think that as a citizen of Cameroon, the basic rights of a citizen from this...
Nina, let me help you.
Yes, go ahead, Rogers.
Now, we have those fundamental rules, which are rights, which are applicable to all human beings. And if you've heard of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights and the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, 1948, which is a core document on human rights, we get to understand that there are certain fundamental rights which we are all privy to, simply because we are human beings and simply because and because we are citizens of a given state.
Of course.
Now we have and we should also understand that Cameroon, being a signatory of the UDHR, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, implies that she has to implement, promote, and protect the rights which are contained in this very unique and groundbreaking document. So now, one of those rights, or some of these rights, which apply to all Cameroonians, the right to life, security, and liberty, the right to vote and be voted in any political election, the right to a fair trial in court, the right to good health, the right to proper education, the right to social protection and security, the right to work and to receive remuneration for work done, the right to ownership of property and protection from deprivation of poverty, the right to form or belong to any association, freedom of movement and settlement without restraint, freedom of worship and conscience, the freedom of expression and the press, the freedom from unlawful detention, arrest, or torture. And if you look at it in our society, all of these rights manifest themselves in one way or the other. We exploit these rights. And so I believe that Cameroon, which has a very unique and long tradition of peace, is a country which respects human rights and promotes them. Even though we are not perfect, but majority of our rights are being promoted and respected.
Wow, that's a clear.
Sure.
I mean, you just enumerate all the rights of a citizen, a Cameroonian citizen, and you are very impressed about that wonderful research you just gave to us.
Yeah, the peer educator who was sensitizing the public about human rights, and that guy just enumerated all these points which you gave, and I was like, why are you telling me all this? How does it concern me? How is it applicable to my life? Do you know what he said? He said because it's your right to know all of them.
Yeah.
So as we were saying, we cannot talk about the rights without talking about the responsibilities, because all of the two concepts are interconnected. So what do you think are the responsibilities of a citizen?
Okay.
Taking our context here in Cameroon.
Now,
yes.
In Cameroon, we also understand that we have rights, and from our rights, we owe certain duties and responsibilities towards the state, which provides those rights to us, or which safeguards those rights to us. And now the first duty that every Cameroonian who qualifies to fulfill it must fulfill is the payment of taxes and rates. You should be paying your taxes regularly. If you notice now, there's a tax drive going on, and most people are either running away or finding it difficult to meet up with the terms of the government. But it is your duty as a Cameroonian to pay those taxes, because it is from those taxes that your society, the government is able to carry out social amenity projects, public services. So these are some of the duties which you must provide. Another duty is, which in itself is a right, is a participation in election. It is your duty.
Voting, yes, of course.
Our duty.
You must hold people responsible. You must choose those you feel are up to the task, who are qualified, have what it takes to be leaders, who can give a fair account of how they've been taking, of how they've been exploiting and using public resources. And another duty is you should prevent crime at your own small level. It is not only the duty of the uniform officers, the police officers, the gendarmerie officers to prevent crime. It is a duty of each and every Cameroonian to prevent crime. And then we also have another duty, which is the protection of public property. You notice that in most public parks, in most schools, in most public offices, people either extort government property, or they misuse it, they damage it. That is criminal.
I tell you,
that is criminal.
It's very sad.
And if you notice that, if young people should take it upon themselves to protect government property, no matter how small or how insignificant you view it to be, it is going to go a lot, because by protecting and preserving the property, you are creating room for longevity. That is ensuring that more people can use it and benefit from it. And it will imply that government resources will no longer be channeled to providing such amenities, but can be used to foster development in other sectors. So some of the duties. We have loyalty, acknowledging and respecting the rights of others. That's a duty also. And I have respecting the laws of the country. All of these things are duties. And if we are to fulfill our duties, we will really, really help to promote nation building in Cameroon.
Wow, Rogers, thank you so much. Dear listeners, you just got a clear examples of civic responsibilities brought to you by Rogers, our resource person in this show, which is a student doing political science in the University of Boya. So I would like to thank you so much. And I will, Eric, maybe you have something to add concerning the responsibilities of a citizen in the nation building.
Yes, thank you very much, Nina. I think that we as the citizens, we have a very important role to play, and we must ensure to fully and practically realize all human rights, including economic, social, environmental, social rights to all citizens, with particular attention to the disadvantaged groups, such as the physically disabled or physically challenged persons. We have as a right to participate effectively in governance through the expression, through channels of expression like we are doing now in the media. We are sensitizing our peers and people about rights and duties of citizens, freedom of association, assembly, and right to information in all its forms. And then also, we also need to sustain the physical, natural, and human resources of our country, like Roger said, because if we know, because first of all, it is very sad that people don't know their rights. Now, if we know that it's our duty to protect public property, it will go a long way to serve the government to give the needs to other priority areas, not coming back to reinvest and, other areas are neglected.
Of course.
Yes. And then I just also want to mention this point that, for instance, the International Youth Day is coming up, and it is the rights of every Cameroonian and all the young people around the world to celebrate this day in all its forms. And the rights now, it's equally, if young people move up to organizations, civil society organizations, government agencies, to seek for support, it is the right of this to support these young people. These young people should not come asking for money, but it's the right of this structure to support them so that this event should be carried out. So I just think that rights is just something for us to be better informed. Because if we're informed, we will make great choices. Thank you.
Okay. Dear listener, we are discussing today on the rights and duties of citizens in nation building in regard to the upcoming Civicus War Assembly. Before we continue with our studio talk on the social, political, and cultural rights and duty of each and everyone in a given nation, let's have another break in the studio with another musical track. This time around is Jay-Z feat a hit song in the title Young Forever. Enjoy.
I am Kelvin Gwang Shemgong.
I am Mokom Philemon.
I am Achu Sanji. I'm Mokom Nova. I'm Mokom Sharon.
I am Youth Doba. I am Lance Whitestone.
I'm Patient Akwenja. I'm Yvonne Frinwi Takwe.
I'm Tala Adama. Miss Mboringong Fideli. I am Achu Jwe.
You are listening to Youth Drive on Foundation Radio.
Youth Out.
Welcome back to You Drive on the Foundation Radio. That was Mr. Hudson featuring Jay-Z in that beautiful piece from the groove, Forever Young. Dear listeners, you're listening to You Drive on the Foundation Radio, and we are discussing on one of the topics of Civicus World Assembly that is going to take place in Montreal, Canada. You Drive is a weekly educative program brought to you by the volunteers of Youth Outreach Program Cameroon. This program aims to educate, inform youth through the issues of great concern to them. This week, we are talking about the rights and duties of citizens in nation building. You can contribute by calling or sending your text message through this number, 70345904. I repeat, 70345904. And immediately we are going to react to your contributions. And of course, if you are adding your voice to this program, it is the voice of the voiceless. It's going to be heard in Bamenda and beyond. And now let's get to our studio talk, Nina. Let's try to talk about some examples of civic responsibility of citizens. It's open.
Yes, since the beginning of this program, we have been giving some example of civic responsibilities, and you should understand that there are many of them. There are many things that a citizen has to do that would directly or indirectly contribute in the development process in the community or the nation in which that citizen is based. So example of citizen responsibilities can be as follows. The citizen should take action wherever they can to improve their own economic, cultural, social development and to promote self-reliance. They should not only base on the government saying that no, as far as people were nominated to rule the country, as far as people are there to direct them, they should not do anything. No, they should also think various ways they can actually contribute.
Okay,
yes.
Nina, I just have a little concern. What is civic responsibility? Can anybody attempt to give a definition on that?
I think that Nina has given us a very concise and simple definition of civic responsibility. Now, taking decision, not solely taking decisions to foster the economic, political, cultural, scientific, and technological development of your country. Not simply relying on the government, but because you are a citizen. That is, you are being responsible.
Right.
Civic responsibility. Now, if we look at it, the spirit of entrepreneurship that the government is struggling to inculcate and sensitize young people to be entrepreneurs is a good example of being civic responsibility. Because once you are an entrepreneur, first and foremost, you help the government by doing what? By providing employment. And secondly, by generating funds, which will lead to the development of the country, by being able to walk up to government officials and ask them to give an account of how they've been using government funds, how they've been running their various constituencies or their various bureaucracies. That's an example of civic responsibility. It shows that you have a very intrinsic interest to witness the development of your country, and you are taking every step, you are putting every mechanism at your disposal to see to either that takes place. So you are being a very civically responsible citizen.
Thank you. Yanina.
Yes, that was a powerful one, Rogers. Yes. And adding to some other civil responsibilities of citizen, we can say that citizen should act with integrity, sharing with others, caring for others, promoting sound values, and guiding the next generation. So don't act as if you are just out to look for your self-interest or for your personal interest. Act in the way that each and everyone around you in the small community where you are, maybe in your home, your community, or your school, in fact, yes, your workplace.
Yes.
So act in the way that everybody can benefit from what you are actually doing.
Yes, it could be a simple action that can motivate people to deem it necessary to to address a need. Okay, let's quickly go to the responsibility of the civil society. What role do they have to play in nation building? The civil society.
Well, the civil society is made up of non-governmental organizations, community common initiative groups, and other interest groups, human rights organizations,
youth associations.
That is the civil society. Now, if you look at it, the civil society has a very, very key role insofar as nation building is concerned. We should be able to, using as an example, we should notice that we can point out the example of a former USSR republic, which, as a result of the activities of the civil society, that country was able to move from anarchy to democracy. And if you look at it, we notice that most networks or most organizations which point out or which encourage the government or the society to move forward is the civil society. Now, we are young people here in this studio, and we are doing something that is on behalf of the civil society.
Of course.
We are sensitizing youths out there. Now, the civil society goes out beyond sensitization into action. If you look at it, the lawyers, the human rights activists, they are crusaders for human rights. They are promoting it. We might look at it as very minute, as insignificant, but I bet you the influence of the civil society on nation building is very, very proportional. It's very, very huge. It's gargantuan. And if the civil society is to function and encourage nation building, then I believe that we need a little support from the environment and the government, because it is a network that is interconnected. We have the civil society, we have the government, and government lays down the foundation. The civil society takes advantage of that foundation like a catalyst, and then it's springboard, and it can carry out its activities. So the civil society, one responsibility of the civil society is like keeping a check on the government, and it happens. The civil society in Cameroon makes the government acts like a check. That's a checks and balance. It balances the excesses and the excesses of the government. So that in itself is a very important responsibility of the civil society.
Let me add something, Rogers. You just mentioned a very important point here. You said that the former USSR, that's the Soviet Union, had is changed from the monarchical form of government to what?
To a democratic system of government.
Democratic
Not
system
actually
of government.
from a tyrannical or a dictatorial form of government to
Democratic form of government
Yes.
because of the power,
Yeah.
the prominence of the civil society organizations.
That is true.
I think that this should be an eye-opener for other civil society organizations, which shows that they have a power, an enormous power, to contribute to the changes, to some of the things which are going wrong in their community, their country, which they are not happy about. So they have the power. Okay. Nina, do you have something to add?
Of course. So from what Roger said, the civil society and the government has to come together in order to build a nation. Yes, because they cannot work independently. They have to put together their effort in order to advance the economy, the socio-cultural, and all the arenas of the nation should be taken into consideration when the civil society and the government are working together. And I wanted to say that one of the team track of the Civicus War Assembly is partnering for social innovation. So it has to do in line with what you were just saying, that the civil society and the government has to work together for a better future.
All right, thank you. And now let's talk about the responsibility of the government.
Now, it will seem as if I was already
we were
preempting diving into something that we had not yet launched into officially.
Yeah.
But if you look at it critically, the government is actually the people, and the people are the government. Now, if the government, which is the people, is to succeed, it needs all the help it can get from the people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the government's responsibility, first and foremost, is securing the environment. Immediately, that in Cameroon is not a problem. I believe that we can say the Cameroonian government has succeeded 100-fold in this. Now, capacitating the civil society, what does that mean? It implies that it provides structures, institutions, and processes through which the civil society has access to the government, to the process, because it's a whole cycle. The processes. The civil society makes recommendations to the government, and the government now has to act maybe based on the recommendations of the civil society. So the problem is, one of the responsibilities of the government is to take the civil society seriously, and that is something that is still a problem in Cameroon.
That's right.
Yes, the government is looking at the civil society like something else. It doesn't really give the civil society that much attention.
That concern.
Insofar as capacity building is concerned, consensus arrival is concerned, the civil society has a very important role to play, and the government is still minimizing the role of the civil society in Cameroon. So, if for the government to really succeed and to achieve its goals, it needs all hands on deck. And I believe that the government has to, one of the responsibilities is first and foremost providing a secure environment, which the government is doing, taking into cognizance the recommendations of the civil society,
correct,
supporting the civil society in whatever means and manner whatsoever that it is at its disposal. I believe that most of these are some of the responsibilities that the government has to take into consideration.
Okay, let me add something. Like, for instance, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which has some laws, which has some points.
Articles, yes.
Articles.
Yes.
Thank you for that word. Which has some articles. Now, if individual countries cannot recognize that law, and accept it, that it should be part of the system of the country, then they will be failing. And who is responsible for this? The government has to be at the forefront to recognize these laws, these articles, and to ensure that they are effectively implemented in their respective countries. Now, if these international laws are not regarded, are despised by governments of countries, then so the government really has a greater responsibility to play.
And Lina, also this also has a direct link to play, because as a responsibility of the government, if the government does not sign this, does not ratify these international documents, then it becomes almost impossible for the civil society to exist.
That's right.
Because by ratifying the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Cameroon, by ratifying that document, it empowers it empowers the civil society to function under the protection of the government. You understand? Most of the laws that are enshrined in this fundamental document are supposed to be promoted and protected by the government. But it is very difficult because the government cannot do everything. And most of these laws here, or most of these rights here, the government does not, maybe because of shortage of resources, human resources, financial, or any other resource. The civil society now promotes these rights in place of the government. So we now see the link that exists between the two. And I believe that they should work in synergy to realize the goals of the society.
Work hand in gloves.
So, dear listeners, the topic of this week is rights and duties of citizens in nation building. And as I said at the beginning of this show, is because of the upcoming Civicus War Assembly that we choose this topic in order to educate and discuss together on our duties and rights, so that we can find means to develop our nation, which is Cameroon. Yes, and the Civicus War Assembly is being organized by two international organizations, that is the Civicus War Alliance for Citizen Participation and the Institut du Nouveau Monde. So you can see that through the discussion, we can understand that the government and the civil society organization has to come together, have to work in close collaboration, so that all the citizens in the nations around the world should know that their duties as well as their rights. Because if I don't know about my rights, if I don't know about my duties, how can I even know how to contribute in developing my nation? So that's why Civicus War Alliance for Citizen Participation is organizing this 11th assembly to bring together the stakeholders, the civil society together in order to discuss on new ways government can come together to build their nations. So thank you so much.
All right.
Maybe you have something to say?
I think that was a very powerful one. And now let's chip in a bit of break into the studio. And right now I want to invite Neo and Pitbull, and they'll be singing for us My Everything.
Youth Outreach Program Cameroon.
Founded in 1993 as a youth association.
Started functioning in 1995 and strongly committed to working with young people,
fighting poverty and inequalities in their communities.
Our visions.
We seek a Cameroon where all young people
contribute to the development of their communities,
gain and share valuable skills vital for adulthood,
live healthy lifestyles,
have equal opportunities.
Our mission:
empower young people with skills needed to make informed decisions,
thus creating a better society where they are healthy,
responsible,
and actively involved in the development process.
Youth Outreach Program.
Developing skills,
enhancing capacity,
building the future.
Youth Drive
on the foundation.
Youth Drive
for the younger generation.
Welcome back into the studio. Youth Drive is a weekly educative program brought to you by Youth Outreach Program Cameroon, a community-based organization whose activities are centered on youth education and community development. Let's get back into our studio talk on rights and the duties of citizens in nation building. And after we have a long discussion in this studio concerning the rights of the government, the rights of the civil society, and the rights of citizens in nation building, we are now going to talk about patriotism, because in fact all those things that we are discussing since the beginning of this show it has to do with patriotism. And I would like Rogers, who is our resource person in this studio, to tell us more about patriotism.
Thank you, Nina. When you hear people saying I'm a patriotic American, I'm a patriotic Nigerian, what comes to mind? Now, you feel patriotic? Now, what is patriotism? Patriotism is having and feeling love for one's country and manifesting that love. That is, you have to respect the flag, respect its officials, sing the national anthem, respect the rules and regulations of the country, and be ambassadors of the country when you are out of the country. It does not only require an official posting in a big building with a flag flying in a foreign country for you to be an ambassador. You can be an ambassador everywhere you find yourself, even though not within the internal frontiers of your country. So those are some of the elements of patriotism that we as young Cameroonians, as we as human beings, must have. Manifest it, and then you live it, you breathe it as a Cameroonian. Now, if I were to ask you the question, are you patriotic towards Cameroon? What would be a response? I am challenging you today, you young people out there.
So, what do you think that there is a difference between nationalism and patriotism?
Nationalism is strong feelings for your country, especially in terms of when faced with either a problem. Like for example, in the 1960s, we had nationalism in Africa. That the African countries were they had this feeling of love. They wanted their countries to gain self-rule and independence. It usually takes place at the level of a mass movement, or at the face of either an emotion taking place in the country. Like for example, we were fighting for the Europeans to leave our continent. That is why we had this nationalistic feeling in us. Now, patriotism makes it more individual. It personalizes. I think that patriotism is nationalism personified, personalized. So I think that is it. Nationalism will take place on a wider scale, on a cross section, but patriotism, it depends. It focuses on the individual, on the entity, the young person. So nationalism, it's a mass movement. A mass movement that everybody is concerned. People are either they are going against the external force or aggression or a threat. You understand? Now that is where nationalism comes in, and it has more bearing in such a setting. But patriotism has always been there, and I believe that it starts at the local, regional, and then national level. You should first feel the love for your village or your subdivision, and then you feel it for your region, and then you now feel the love for your country. Okay.
That's a very good one, and listener know that the topic of today has a connection with the team chart of Syracuse, that is changing nations to citizens. How can we have a better community? How can we have a better nation through the actions of citizens? So by discussing in this studio, we can now understand that citizen has a big role to play in advancing the socio-economic, the cultural, the political, and the all the arenas of a given nation. So, what do you have to say? Do you have another additional, contribution concerning this topic of today?
Yeah, I would just like to add that patriotism is, for me, like Roger said, is personal. When you are proud of something, you are now motivated to do it, to do something. So, if I'm proud of my country, it means that if I see something going wrong in my community, I will make sure I'm part of the solution. And that now nationalism comes in when it's a national thing, where everybody is concerned, and they are more motivated, inspired, and they want to maybe change things. So I feel that at all levels, even at the developed countries, there are problems. There are still people sleeping on the streets, and there's still poverty. And so people should develop these nationalistic feelings to see how they can address social problems, so that the world can become a better place, like all the civil society organizations are claiming or are saying. Yeah.
Wow, that's very great. And adding to what you guys have just said, I can say that Mark Twain defined patriotism like supporting your country all the time and the government when it deserves it. You see, so we can just mesh all the explanation you just gave to what Mark Twain has said. Yeah. So Rogers, what are the instruments of that protect human rights in Cameroon, for instance?
We have first and foremost, we have the instruments which have to do with outlining the rights in themselves, simplifying them and explaining them. So that's the first instruments, are the articles. At the international level, we have the economic, social, and cultural rights. Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights.
Mhm.
We have the Covenant on political, civil and political rights. We have
Wow.
the Covenant on third generation rights that they call environmental rights. And there are so many other covenants at the international level. These are instruments and mechanisms, which now the mechanism, we have the International Court, the International Criminal Court, we have the International Court of Justice at The Hague, and the courts are there and the mechanisms are there. We have the at the UN level, we have United Nations Development Program on Human Rights. So these are all instruments. Now, if we are to fall back in Cameroon, we see that at the local, at the first stage, we have a national constitution, which spells out our rights. Then now, if we go to the judicial code, we see the judicial code. We see how the government has ascribed punishment and reward for those who break this or who defy the rights, and for those who show distress. So, at the level of the nation, we have our constitution, and then we have the various articles in our constitution and other documents and other statutes. Now, instruments of protection or instruments of execution, we have the police forces. They protect, they implement. Now, instruments of mediation, we have the courtrooms where they mediate and interpret those rights.
Yeah.
And we all know, if you are found lacking of having respected a right or having broken a right, you know the penalties that will come with such rights. And in the process of inflicting punishment, rights are also being promoted and protected, because we have the international, the criminal code, the international, the Cameroon criminal code, criminal procedure code in Cameroon. It protects inmates, or it protects suspects. So we know that we should look at it from it is multidimensional.
Of course.
It goes everywhere, because no matter what you do, it is either you are stepping on somebody's rights or you are living according to the prescribed norms.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for accepting to be our today resource person in this show, and we are drawing towards the end of this program called You Drive on Foundation Radio FM 100, and I would like you, Rojas, to extend some greetings to your loved ones.
I'm very grateful, Nina. Just as an aside, I would like to say that I've had a wonderful time in the studio with you guys, and I hope that you guys, I'll find myself inside the again. I would like to extend greetings to my wonderful mother in my former kit, and my younger sisters, Geraldine, about me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rogers. Dear listeners, we are drawing closer to the end of this wonderful program called You Drive, and of course, as a reminder, You Drive was brought to you by Youth Outreach Program Cameroon. And this is our contact. You can visit us via Facebook. Just type the word You Drive and you should contribute and give us whatever feedback we need. Or you drop us an email, ydrive08@gmail.com. If you want to know more about Youth Outreach Program, go to www.yopcam1word.org to know more about Youth Outreach Program. Or if you feel that you want to write a letter, go to P.O. Box 5185 in Queen, Bamenda. This voice is Eric Mbotiji, and I want to thank our guest, Mr. Neil Roger, for being our resource person, and we hope that this is not the last time. In fact, it will be a darling wish for us to have you on board next time. I want to extend greetings to my mom, Miss Tamun Justine, my dad, everybody that knows this voice, and thank you all.
It was a great pleasure to know you were listening to You Drive, dear listeners, and we'll be here in the studio here at Foundation Radio next week. My name is Bukanina, and I extend my greetings to all my family members and volunteers at Youth Outreach Program. Bye.
For the younger generation, for the younger generation.